Heritage Room. This is a super turnout for a night like this. This is really very great. I know Terry's very happy about it also. With us this evening is Terry Oberst. He's a Lincoln poet, and I know that many of you know him. He just recently graduated from the university with a degree in English. His poems have been published in several publications to include Pan, Alternatives, and Laura's. And his first book of poetry, Returning, was a finalist in the 1982 Annex 21 writing contest at UNL. So we really are very pleased to have him here this evening. And without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Terry Oberst.
Hello, everybody. I'm really honored to be able to read for you in this response when it's so cold out and nobody wants to go out, and this is great. So without any more ado, I guess I'll just read some poems. First one is an old poem. Can everyone hear me if I speak at this tone? Okay. This first one is an old poem. I still kind of like it. It's called The Edge of Things. I strode in on the hill of my voice. You did not hear me. I smashed the mirror, turned back the clock. I even left my teeth marks in your table. You did not notice. Look, I've tried. I know there is a language lost on the edge of things, but I do not know how to speak it. First, I find that I write a lot about people that I know, sometimes right away, sometimes after years of reflection. I'm going to try to recite a memorized poem because I don't have it with me. It's just a short one. It's about a guy I knew out in Newport and Providence at one time, and later on I heard he died. It's called Bob. Excuse me, it's called Fred. I admit this much. I never liked you. I admit this much, I never liked you. You held on to me like a lost dog in the stank. At times you knew how to get by. That day we drove to Newport, you did not speak, yet you still drift down like darkness from where you died. That's kind of a sparse one, I'm afraid. Kind of a short one. This is a longer one. As the one is sparse, this is kind of filled with details. This is about my working experience in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I worked for this company that was the largest distributing company in the Southwest. And I had to load trucks and make deliveries and things like that. And it was a lot of fun. I got to know the people. And our boss's father died on an occasion. It was an occasion. I kind of wrote a poem called Carlo, which was his name. I wrote it kind of as from all of the workers to his family. And here's how it goes. It's called Carlo, a reflection. You seemed a gentle man. There was a certain dignity your hobble could not hide, a creaking defiance of any arm or cane. Antique among the gathering shadows, you were one of those wobbly wheelers the 8 o'clock relief was unlucky enough to find. Good for the loping boredom of filling orders, not that vital community, straining guts of loading trucks. The current snicker, Fat J.D. started it, was that you'd probably asphyxiate on the fumes of Henry's tow motor before you shuffled out of the way. How could we have known you'd heard that drone a generation before? Why, Charlie, your august namesake, hired and fired Chicanos to the chomp of eye cancer. A lean daughter showered kindness to the bleakness of a mental ward. We admired the steady determination of your gait. That last day we saw you, Laco and I were wrestling around by the flower. Who knows how long you had been watching? Sheepish, we stopped. We expected hell, or at least a good stiff scowl. You just touched my worn-out wheeler and twinkled. A lean Italian bull again, steaming with the rawness, the gut stuff of life, straining to carve an empire into the layered waste of New Mexico. Carlo, old amigo of wine and wetbacks, Tomorrow at 6 I'll shake the sleep from my eyes and wander your vast storehouse, obscure among the silent looming stacks that miss your trembling fingertips. Amid broken song, the coughs of spent trucks that still defy tuna, the growl of Richard rising above the first groans of these blear-eyed bodegas, we all sit in our love. Frankie, Dave, Laco, Jose, Billy, and Dale. And I'll grasp that half-flat wheeler once again, failing to remember the words of another frail old man, whose dark Spanish demons drove him to dream with his hands something about how long it takes to become young, how much it costs to leave that twinkle behind. And I'll go back and read a few more here, back to where I was. This one is called Encounter on a New England Bus. It's one of those strange things that happen somehow where you feel a closeness to someone you just sat down on the bus with, and it's kind of an amazing thing to experience. It was years later that I came to write this poem. But here it goes. It's called An Encounter on a New England Bus. All I remember is the smell of rain in her dark hair, the sheen of moisture on her face that sparkled like the rarest of dews. The bus cradled the two of us, two wanderers in American Eden, until her leaves of grass slipped to her moist lap, and her head found a rest on the rhythm of my shoulder. What did she dream of, my beautiful stranger, as my head too began to nod, to fold the myriad feathers of unconsciousness, and find its wet wings rest on the wet maternal nest of your hair? Did I dream I was still watching Mrs. Mahoney in the 4th grade, with a trace of my mother's perfume, rearranging the felt bulletin board, slipping into that feeling of warmth and consolation that can come only to an 8-year-old in deepest concentration? Or did I drink deep from the inebriation of recollected memory I found on Scott Anderson's shoulder amid the lurch and roll of that rickety Boy Scout bus, pretending to hold his sister Patty while holding him, or for that matter, any girl for the first time? Was it when I brushed my lips to thine, my unspoken angel, that awoke you, hot and troubled from some enormous motif of hurt and satisfaction? I do not think she dreamt of me. 15 years later, this is human closeness, love blossoming out of memory, dark hair still wet from New England rain. A strange, beautiful woman who carried the darkest seat of my deepest need. Could I help but love you as you slipped off that bus, leaving me forever after rain, riven with the new breaking light? This poem is again a poem for a friend or for an acquaintance. And this goes quite a ways back with a good friend of mine I haven't seen for years now. It's called Jay. I could always count on you through this passion and mire as the years rattled their brittle sticks at God, and we grew bold and buck-danced towards the sun's bloody ascension, drank our way to oblivion and bust. We cursed more than once the bitter bread we hustled in the boiling streets of Boston one summer, bled over our romance with a fickle adolescent moon, the boon she would never grant us, no matter how many high answers we swore she had. That bare box of apartment you kept off Commonwealth suited our nightly suicides. The women we wanted wouldn't waste their time on us, their smooth, chill fingers invading our cheap wine, so that after 6 belts of Beaujolais, we didn't give a shit. We were young and our shadows couldn't keep up with us, sweating out our monstrous desire in that red human cage of August sky. Said the hell with it and made up a menagerie of lies about the future and its bear-like two-step. We were brutes and bums, breaking the arthritic back of time. When did it end, this burning? I remember an insidious whisper, madness pecking away at my bones, until I had to gut out, rage at the belt that tightened round my neck, slash and beat my flesh to keep from getting old, until I could bitch and blood that for a man to show another man he loved him is righteous and whole. You bore my breath through all those blistering years, and these strong, these fragile tears are yours, falling forever like seed on fresh soil, are yours. next poem I'm going to read is longer. It's a poem about my stay at the Epley drunk tank, or whatever you want to call it, program for alcoholics. And it was a Christmas, and it was snowing, and I had been in the place 30 days, and I wanted out, and all this other thing. And it's about the visit. It's called The Visit. It is the Sunday before Christmas. Here I am in this plush drunk tank in mid-Omaha, where boredom hangs from your eyelids like icicles on eaves at winter noon. Under the mad Halloween moon, I guzzled again, my probation at school left in the shards of that bill bottle. This time, no shining faculty savior was there to save my ass. I was kicked out. I came home wearing sackcloth and the steady burn of vodka, my prodigality seen in blushing reams. Dad motioned me aside and said I needed help. A friend of the family apparently did well there. So here I am, 2 months later, no hangover, but the stab of December light at 7 o'clock. And they tried at 10 to break me down, to scrape the mush, the years of manipulation away in their hot seat of circle of harassment and torn memories. The only way a drunk can understand confrontation. I can lie, but I cannot cry. It was time for our family conference. Barb, my strident counselor, chastised me more than once about getting up. I wished I'd had a voodoo doll wanting every sordid remembrance of mine to be a tiny pin of blackout. I warned Dad about her. She could be rough. Mom had had nightmare enough. But he laughed and said what a salty old seahorse she was. That night I had a nightmare. Mom was drowning in Grandmother Eve's tears. Eve's hair was fragile lightning. Her storm center seemed one half of the sea. And they waited in some safe cove or something, a coward watching her go down. I awakened in a sweat, smoked a cigarette, and went back to bed. So there we were, an uneasy foursome, groping with abuse, blame, sickness, alcohol, Dad trying to tear his hands off in frustration. You were dismissed from 2 schools, scared your mother into leaving the house. She drove all night, and threatening your godson as they locked you in the basement. Tears poured out of his eyes, dripping from the knots of his fists. He shook like a coatless man, beaten to his knees in the Arctic wind. I thought he was having a heart attack. Mom was the strong one today, hoarsely saying we must all carry our crosses. She loved me, but once again she was pressed between us like a prom orchid in a dusty Bible. It is almost 1. They should be here soon. I'm watching Holiday Inn, or some such silly Christmas fair. I hear my father clear his voice behind me. I wheel around. Mom isn't there. My smile dribbles down my chin. Terrence, come with me. I slink after like a puppy that just crapped on the broom. He calls to the nurse. I need a witness. I slump in an old steel chair, trying to squirm into the cushion. The nurse is hesitant, confused. He reads from a typewritten brief. Terrence, ever since the 8th grade, you've caused nothing but heartache for your mother and me. You have been given more opportunities than any of your other 2 brothers combined. You have squandered your time in a rampage of pot and alcohol. As of this moment, you are no longer my son. The words whiz past me like angry gnats, and suddenly I'm a small child again, who has crawled to his daddy's lap in fear, because the wolf just ate the duck in some old recording. But you know you're in your father's arms, and nothing, not even an old wolf, is stronger than your dad. It is night, and I am alone. I imagine myself holding a crushed prom orchid, seeking the lap of a new moon. I can't cry. I tell myself I can't cry. The silence gaping like a freshly slashed wound. Is that mother asleep in the dark hospital? Dad weeping in his locked bedroom? Take a sip of that. This next poem is a painful poem. It's about an experience that I had that I hope nobody else has to go through. It's called Air Hunger. St. Joseph's Hospital, January 1975. The bell rings. Once again I awaken. It is the morning of the fourth day. The first time, I admit, was different. The stately gown, the prick in the arm, the anticipation. It felt like Christmas. Then the icy whoosh in the veins, the whoosh that hurls you over a cliff flailing backwards. The first time. The third time I prayed. Look, I made out my list. I prayed. The mouthpiece, a crucifix. The IV, a rosary. I'm saved. It is the fourth day, and I have a cold. Snow is falling in Omaha, the worst blizzard in 25 years. All night I have dreamed. Old high school teachers circle and sniff while I scream, but no one hears. I can't breathe. My father enters my room. He selects my new pants from the closet and says we must be leaving soon. I know my father hates me. The treatment will be over by noon. In silence we slog to the car. Soon the red crucifix looms above 10th Street. The sly smiles of the techs greet me at the small doorway on Dorcas. I begin to cry as I am undressed. My father holds my hand. I am rolled into a white room. The doctor leers above me. As I am strapped down, he reassures me. My sleeve is jerked up. Something is shoved in my arm, in my mouth. There is an icy rush in my veins, and I am flailing over a cliff, backwards. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Maybe I can find a little lighter one after that. This is, well, I like this poem. It's kind of like a vision sort of thing. But, I'll read it. It's called Throughout the Line. It was late. You were gone. I jumped first. I climbed up again and hid myself in the barn. It was older than most roosts. I noticed a broken figure in the tarn. The wind is different at dusk. It pulls you up from your uneasiness and soothes your body on its dance floor. Sooner or later, war will come. Chow could hardly wait to hunt bear meat. This time we will give the guns to the flowers and let them molest us a while. Of course, we'll collect all the bullets and burn them. Leave either side you've chosen and head to the mountains of desolation. The door is open, and the fire is beginning to spread throughout the line. How are we doing? Oh, gee. This, let's see, this next poem is kind of a real recollection of some friends of mine that died, really, high school friends that died. It's called Death and Company. Well, I've been through all this, and it's not my fault. With my face growing smaller and smaller in the mirror, my eyes like red hornets. It is terrible. I was still a child. And now with the wind raising her dirty skirts, and my blood ticking time to the north, I remember that white house on Sailor Street, watching the dump trucks with my grandmother, who is dying in the restroom from trying too hard. They are all dying, my friends. Tom Pate, long and lanky, a sharp thud on a Canadian football helmet. Mike McCarthy, the rags of the priesthood, ground his slumping shoulders. Marilyn Morrow, face smashed against the dashboard. Tom Bisbee, decapitated on an icy night in December by a derailed train. And I sit in this dark apartment and weep, tiny testimonies of salt, for a lost shadow in a room full of shadows, until morning climbs down from her apple tree like a friendly child to follow death, a face familiar in the crowd. This poem is called The Journey. It goes like this. It begins with dusk, the sun slipping into the noose of night, and the snow covering all the tracks. Soon the darkness settles on your shoulders like a sack of small stones, and the only sound is the wind hissing in your ear. Fool, turn around. And yet you go on, one tired trudge after another, until in an hour or so you realize you might be wandering in circles, and there's a lump in your throat the size of a cannonball, and you want to lie down and sleep, and you do. And dream you see that faint flicker through the ghostly trees, and you set your hope on it, like ancient sailors did the northern star, and finally stumble into a clearing. There it is, just as it always was, made of red brick, laid by your Polish grandfather's hands, the house you grew up in, and you crash in the front door and sprawl on the brown tile floor, exhausted, then slowly drag yourself up and move towards that heavy oaken door to the cellar, always forbidden to you. And with one of your grandmother's oatmeal cookies in your grasp as a talisman, you open it and step down into its cool dampness, not knowing what to find, but knowing you must try to begin to piece together the puzzle of your small existence. And you find the book you were never to see, foreboding hitting your head like a hammer, and you open it to the first page, and you read, "Whosoever finds this book will have to die unto himself, and pain shall be his God all the wandering, wasted years of his youth." And you suddenly awake and realize where you are, the snow till tumbling down, covering you with its innocence, and you scream out into the barren night. Scream out how little time there is for all of us. Scream out at the top of your lungs, "Whatever I was born to do, I have not yet begun." This is my attempt at writing a funny poem. It's called Darwin Was Wrong. It is true, it's not you who flagellates me to this madness, but with the one-eyed midget selling tickets to my funeral and the fire-eater breathing down my neck, I stumble outside and scream at the stars. You don't believe in each other either, in your cages of light. Later, when the coast is clear, I remember I was late for work this morning. I who keep the verbs arranged, the nouns from eating each other. Should my father have put a bullet in my head when this thing all started? But it's too late for that. Too late to warn my mother I wore her dresses when she left for church. I was too young to know the difference between a good lay and a hole in the wall. But now I'm going to visit my current lover, the fat lady with the beard at the circus, and whisper in her one good ear, "Darwin was wrong. Ask the monkeys in their velvet cages who will survive." Kind of weird, isn't it? Let's see, how are we doing for time? Okay. Let me read two more from this, and I'll finish up. This is called Harpooning Poems. It's kind of interesting because this is one poem every once in a while, I guess. You just kind of sit down with a pencil in your hand or a pen, and you just kind of go from there. You don't really know what you're doing or what you want, and there's not even a good phrase in your head. And this is what came out of that experience. It's called Harpooning Poems. 1 foot forward, steady against the flank of the mind, the arms tattooed and tense, breath suspended for the sighting, until the sharp whine of the lungs wets the razor edge of white space. Then the bones blow the guttural sounds. A huge brawling one surfaces between the black lines, to be heaved into again and again, until words, like entangling Ahabs, beckon you down into the depths of the darkening sea. And how is it? Is it okay so far? Okay, let me finish with this one, then I'll read a small section of Returning, and then we'll have some refreshments. Okay. This is called, it's another friend poem, and it's called Bob. Let me take a drink here. Bob. He was the best man for our wedding, my wife and I. And he was a 50s cat. Bob. When you were young, you bopped till the sun slid down, bearing your adolescent soul to rock and roll. Simplicities of Elvis and Eddie Cochran, burning your animal incarnation under the full moon. On a chilly autumn night, disdaining the school's colors, the Straits football game, for a reverie of beat that descends and finds a dancer's home in your hands and feet. You ducktailed it to forget your family's inadequacies, this pulsing music, your first love, figuring in your forgiveness of them, of all of them, who couldn't keep up with your manic energy. You had the finest blonde on your bony shoulders, sex cutting through the frost of the night, like a hot blade in the back, hands roaming each other's strange budding bodies, until that strangeness slips in to the wound of warmth without even knowing it. And there you are, in a ragged blanket, by your cherry Chevrolet. No football player, but who could take your place in this tentative lovemaking? You, hero of the beat and bop. And now at 45, deprived of the girl child you've raised and your Indian bride of 20 years, you whisper to me, I'll be gone by 50. Or what's worse, I don't want to live past 50. Yet when you spin Elvis, your eyes grow soft, your feet twitch in heat. At the disco club I dragged you to, who could keep up? Who could keep up? Bob, don't die. Teach the children of the world that the intensity and truth of youth still reside in your burnt-out boots. Dance, dance, death's tooth your talisman. Be as free as a crazy warbling top. You first generation of rock and roll, still a hero of beat and bop. And there's one new poem I wanted to read. Kind of short. It's called The Old Guard. Stars, the old guard, peer down upon our dark possibilities, our wings, our dung. They pass judgment on no one. Their burden of light tumbles down to the hungry like manna. Their faint voices are heard by all the dispossessed on earth, whispering, we are each a light in the darkness. How heavy is this darkness we bear for love of you. And now, seeing how we've been at it for a while, I'm going to read, it's called a section from my book of poetry I called Returning. And it's, I think it's about 10 pages or so. I really don't know how to set it up that much. Well, the epigraph to it is from Eliot's The Wasteland. I do not find the hanged man. And I guess the first part of it is kind of like a personal quest for that star of destiny. And after the quest comes the denial of the role that I would play. Kind of a mixture of the ancient prophets and the hanged man, or the Fisher King, however you want to call it. The middle section, called Mother, is about the transition between mother and father consciousness. And then the final section is kind of a dream sequence. And here it goes. It's called Destiny Before Life. I do not find the hanged man. Section 1, The Quest. The condemned. Escape. You will not feel the raw light litter your tongue. Some rag of word, rot in silence. Of course, you will quickly crawl inside, seal the bloody eye of the entrance, and pretend nothing has happened. Sometimes you will even pause to touch your tongue, to mutter. Alms. I have found my father's room again, but will not enter. Unholy, naked and cold. I must fill the bowl outside his door, stumble down the steps. I cannot enter. I leave the lust of the eyes, the bash of the ear, the holes of the nose. I leave the rough box of the mouth, the white nails of the tongue, what remains of the tongue. I leave the medusa thickets of the lungs, the heart clat of apple they stretch for, the intestines miles of snake. I leave my penis and testicles. I leave the clutch of the hand, the dust of the foot, each dried-up vein, each quill of bone. I leave each ash, each old word, then kneel. I hope some faint fragrance of prayer, some new poem of destiny will be revealed before you close the door. The search. The walls are scabbing ink. I have crawled until my knees are rags of blood, until I have no elbows. I have crawled from blackness into blackness, a communion of night never partaken before. I have crawled, nothing tells me where I am. Tell me where I've been, tell me where I'm going. I've crawled. I stop. A door slams in the distance. Denial. I denied the chastening sting of the wind, the scorching penance of shimmer and sand that sears my head clean off the chipped platter of my torso. I deny the staple of locusts and honey, the day after day of wandering alone in the dissecting sun. I deny the austere desert moon her hint of benevolence as I grope along, sweating my rejection. I deny my childhood shadow, which folds inside me a glaring moon. Despite the illusions of sand, the shifting mirage, the prophets branded man, hawk their God. Denial. Yahweh, there is no water in this wasteland, and I am no king to be sacrificed. Second section is called Mother. I can't be punished anymore. Mother. Under the inchoate moon of childhood, where fact and fantasy are entwining, like snakes copulating in a ditch, I, dearest mother, claim the wandering itch to sail to any ports of call, an adventurer searching for the Shangri-La, the bottom of your jewelry drawer, a fitful ransom, earrings and imitation pearls, for you, my patron and queen, and then retired from my nap in Davy Crockett dreams, a part-time dragon slayer, in night gallant. When I was 12, to avoid the switch, I ran, had shouted a word, taboo in my house. Father tried to stop me, but I popped him one and smashed the glass door open, trilling blood of an almost man. I escaped to some warm lover's haunt, fanning fitful dreams to fiery touch. I dreamt last night. You were sitting on a park bench, watching the pigeons feed, when for no reason I could see, the bench transformed to an alabaster throne, and you, 20 years old again, a white wedding bride, and the autumn leaves swirled around you like small rainbows, and Father, a young army buck, bowled in sweating, having followed you from the dance at Peony Park, and he knelt on his knobby knees and held your foot. And then the dream dissolved. It was cold. I focused my stinging eyes on the wide, deep hole as they lowered you down into the lumpy earth. Mother, I squalled my birth 30 years ago and have returned from my dark Hejira to once again claim you as my queen, carrying with me the wild knowledge of the rubble of the cities, the treachery of the desert, what life left crammed in between. Father, give me the key, and I will mount the winding question mark of the staircase, a reluctant usurper fearful that age has touched her. I have come home, your lost son, to claim an answer if there be one. Mother, are you the auroral dream I've dug from childhood's rattle and bone, or just another storybook woman who left a trail of bitter crumbs to follow home? Sybil. 1. Moon cold, moon cry, womankind. 2. We are men, we are strong, we are ready once again. 3. Circle drawn, candles lit, hexagrams with sorcerer's stick, cage. 4. Little ones, Mama's home now. Kill Mama now. Sphinx's answer. Oedipus, Oedipus, why do you delay? Too long you stay. The Sphinx's answer. Old fool, old blind, head dangling down, fool, you. The answer is you. Mother and son. A star-burning night over Bethlehem. One great miracle. Shocked shepherds knelt, angels tending. Glory to God in high heaven. Ah, Jerusalem, what curtain was torn as dark draws your rest? You begin to cry for your mother's breast. I saw him once when I was very young. He rode into Jerusalem that crystal day. He was seated on a colt, silly almost, his white robe sparkling in the intensity of noon. He held the crowd, their noisy palms and waving psalms, in the center of his slender small hands, which John, a cousin from Nazareth, had said were as fine a carpenter's as any in that small northern village. But somehow he did not fit into the joyous thunder. His eyes searched for something else. Later, amid the dancing jubilation, I heard he had said his kingdom was not of this world, or something like that. His glory did not last long. The fickle crown deserted him, and he died a poor criminal's death. Pilate's judgment tacked above him. There was a vague rumor he rose from the dead, and it's true his body was never found, stolen by his meager followers, no doubt. Time washes away the many faces of memory. That day on the mound of my father, I saw his eyes, a lamb welcoming the slaughter. But as he turned away, I saw the lions too. And finally it was called The Coming. Lion and woman, and the Lord knows what. Black, black, black. The mnemonic slap of steaming sand. That darkest dream again. I am lion's body, head of a woman, nearly blown off by my crouching mythos. No spoon to riddle, no eyes to pin out. Black, 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 and there strung above me, I feel the most ancient of stars, the great mother on the throne of fire. I'll follow her shimmering, destiny before light, drifting down like manna. There, on the grassy star of Golgotha, Skull Hill, I sense the first raw ribs of cradle. Thanks a lot.